I think blindness, I would probably define it. I would sort of categorize it into two ways, like physical blindness, being unable to see. Um, but I think not just I wouldn't just classify it complete, um, like not being able to see as blindness, but also not being able to see as clearly as other people. I think that would also sort of partially count as blindness. I'm pretty sure there's some sort of medical definition that's a lot more precise than what I'm saying right now. But I can think there can also be a sort of non-physical blindness, as in I think there's that famous experiment where like uh, people are passing around the basketball and a gorilla walks into the frame and no one sees the gorilla. Not a lot of people see the gorilla. I think that's also sort of blindness in a sense that you are missing what's there obviously in front of you because you're too focused on other things.
Blindness, I guess, would just be any sort of like impairment on how you visually interact with worlds. So like color blindness or or just like vision that's not necessarily color blindness, but any sort of visual impairment that interacts how you're able to interact and go through your daily life.
To me, blindness means any kind of visual difficulties or impairments that can prevent someone from that can sort of interfere with someone's ability to kind of go through life and kind of like go through life without any sort of impairments or difficulties.
I would say my definition of blindness is someone who is blind in any capacity, so like their sight is impaired in any way, like whether that's like 90% or 50% or if they can't see at all. I would classify that as blindness.
I think blindness on the surface level is like automatically like an inability to see, but that has, I think it's pretty all encompassing. People could be blind from birth and have no vision, or they could have working optical nerves and then impairments in the actual eye itself. It's pretty broad, but in general, just like impairment of vision.
Um, Sorry, are you asking for like the accepted definition of word or what is it to me? Okay, I think it's just not being able to see, and that ranges. It's a spectrum. I wouldn't say it's being like seeing blank or seeing everything. It's a spectrum.
Um, I guess it can kind of depend. Like, I know, or I guess when I was younger, I used to think it was just people who like couldn't see at all. And then like as I've gotten older, especially with like, different people who are big on social media and that sort of thing, they're kind of raising awareness to like there's different kind of ways in which you can see, or like there could be blurriness, it could be like you can only see kind of certain areas in your vision. Um, so yeah, I guess I would just kind of say it depends.
Blindness means to me, um, oh, that's a good question. Wow. Darkness. Um, I don't know. Very hard for a person to be able to go through life living in the dark. Um, I don't. I don't have any family members that are blind, so it's hard for me to be able to even gather a thought on it. But I, I see one of the students around here that walks with one of these that you have, uh, and it's amazing to see how you're able to get around like you do, um, counting steps, and no, to have to live in the dark would be rough. I've been, I'm lucky, I mean, to be able to see. I take it, have not being able to see it. I don't know. That'd be very hard, very hard.
A lot of sighted people expect all blind people to only see darkness all the time. Whether they have their eyes open or closed, it's just darkness all the time. I think this is like the old poetic vision of blindness, or the old idea of what blindness is. But really, very few blind people have no vision at all. Like me, I have light perception, so I can see the sun, I can see where windows are, I can see color sometimes. Blindness doesn't determine how much we can see. It's just a label we use to unite our community.
What does blindness mean to you? This is Hannah. Hannah's 22, a singer-songwriter, and a student at University of San Francisco, and one of my closest friends. When I told her that I had a documentary project to do, and I wanted to show the world what it looks like to navigate as a blind person, she graciously let me follow her along as we explored neighborhoods in Philly.
I'm getting a slight poo smell.
So, what are some things that you noticed after walking around the city of Philadelphia?
The public transit here is not like it is in San Francisco for sure, but it is navigable. I mean, it doesn't like announce the stops as much on the train. The buses are a little bit more challenging, but it is doable, and it's such a fun city to walk around. I really enjoyed just talking to people here and introducing myself and learning who they are and learning their stories and stuff. For me, walking around a city is not so much about like popping into stores and browsing stores. Like I love that stuff, but for me it's really the walking itself. Like you learn a lot about a city from how the sidewalks are, how things are made accessible, like if there's steps going into doorways, if there's obstacles in the sidewalk, you know, that's like the soundscape of the city, the things people are listening to out their windows, the sound of the cars going by, the train sounds, the bus sounds, and like the street names, and how you can learn so much about a city by how the streets are named, and you can learn so much about history just by looking at street names.
What do you wish more people realized about blind people moving around the city?
I think a lot of it is that people kind of lose their mind when I'm crossing a street, but that's so second nature. You just use the sound of the traffic. Or people lose their mind when I'm gonna touch the edge of a step with my cane. They think I'm gonna fall down the steps, but I've also been learning how to do steps since I was 5. So just because a cane finds something, it doesn't mean I'm doing something wrong. The cane is supposed to find things. And if my cane is finding steps, if it's finding telephone poles, then that means I'm safe, like where things are, and then it's my job to direct myself around it. I wish people understood that the cane is an exploratory tool and not a direction giver, you know what I mean?
When people do freak out, or when people do like grab you and move you and stuff, how do you react in those moments, and how do you wish you could react?
When people do this, I often react pretty passively. Honestly, I don't get mad until they're really, really pushing it, you know. Until I'm having trouble shaking them off is the only time when I get mad. Sometimes I wish I could be a bit more upfront with people, because a lot of blind people really dislike being touched. And though I am not super sensitive to touch, and I don't really, like, of course I don't want people touching me, but I don't mind it. It doesn't trigger me or anything. But a lot of blind people, it does really frighten them and really triggers them. So sometimes I want to be more direct with people and say, like, don't touch me without permission, you know, which they should know already, but I think a lot of blind people take it harder than I do. So I wish I could make that less likely for it to happen to them, you know, by being the first one to say, please listen to this boundary, don't touch me, you know.
And why do you think people touch you? Why do you think this idea that, like, you would have to ask permission to touch someone else but not a blind person exists?
I think it's just because people want to reach out and grab me and direct me before giving me directions, which is the preferable way. Like, of course, I'd rather someone say, oh, the steps are a couple a couple movements to your right, you know. But instead, they'd much rather just guide me to the steps using their hands because they think it's faster and they think it's more intuitive. And they think it's a safety thing for me. They think that touching me makes me safer, but really it just makes me more scared and makes me lose my sense of direction and my line of travel. So when people touch me, they think that, you know, it kind of leans into their savior complex. And they would never think of touching other people because it's not needed. But they think that I can't take directions. They think that I can only take directions through touch because they don't know how to use their words fast enough.
I feel like sighted people often underestimate all the ways that blind people can perceive the spaces around them. Because most sighted people just walk through the world and only look at the things around them, but blind people have to touch them and pick them up and look at them, smell them, taste them even sometimes, and nature becomes a much more immersive experience.
For me, blindness is subversion. Like, blind people have always been centers of knowledge and centers of understanding because of the very multisensory and very nuanced way that we have to perceive the world. I think we pick up a lot of things that other people don't know. So my job as a blind person is just to walk around and do everything that people think I won't do. People need to see the unexpected more often. And when they see the unexpected, it causes their knowledge to grow and causes their understanding to expand. And if I can be something that makes them think twice, anytime someone thinks twice is a good thing. That's kind of what I think blindness is just taking people's perceptions of what they think I should be and then just flipping them around.
I think we got it.
I think we got it.